Good morning, y'all. I'm getting ready to practice yoga, and I wanted to say something that I was thinking about last night that I doubt I'm going to give a fuck about after I practice yoga because it always neutralizes my emotions. But basically, as a fat yoga teacher and practitioner, I feel like there's a lot of emphasis on the kinds of poses that we can practice. And I really hate that I've been a part of this. It's just really fucked up because there's pressure on larger body teachers, and specifically teachers, I would say, that really is not on smaller body teachers. I mean, I'm sure that it is, but if you are if you're larger bodied and you want to teach yoga and you want to teach like a fast paced or a more like athletic style of yoga, then you will be judged by the way that you practice the poses, and it can become impossible to even get hired if you're not seen by a studio as like a good enough teacher. It is a fucked up thing that most people think it's okay, actually. Like, there's no real. Again, before someone hops up in my mentions talking about how it's not just fat people, it is all kind. This is something that exists throughout the entire yoga community. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but whenever you're larger bodied, it turns into this thing of like, well, we need to make sure that you really know what you're talking about, and that that the students are going to be safe, and that everyone's going to really get the same experience. Like, it's some size phobic bullshit that is literally floor to ceiling the whole yoga world. Oh, look, my breast was out. That's great. Now, I feel like a huge part of what has pushed this kind of culture along, because like, I mean, yeah, I feel like what pushes this culture along is this like, look at this amazing fat yoga person, look what they can do. And so I personally take a lot of responsibility for that, because I feel like having people like me and others who are out here just like, showing these more advanced parts of our practice, that it turns into a circus sideshow effect. Instead of having people, inspired to practice yoga, what happens more is seeing people be like, wow, that's crazy. I had no idea fat people could do that. Like, it's literally like being a sideshow. No shade on sideshows, but that is not the point of a personal yoga practice, and especially is not the point of teaching yoga. And it's just really problematic. And I feel like there are ways that we can change that. One of the things that I've done over the last year or so, because this is something that I've really been thinking about for the last 2 years really hard, but over the last year, whenever I have professional photo shoots, I have like a set list of asana that I will practice, and I don't do more. I used to like just kind of let my body go where it wants to go, and practice really really hard, and there'd be all these people on set like, wow, this is so amazing, this is great, and then they get greedy. And much love to my photographers, but I think that there's a general feeling that whenever you're practicing asana in front of a camera, that you're looking for attention. And let me be clear, I'm sure a lot of people are looking for attention, but I think that if you're not, that it's important to draw a line in the sand. I feel like, especially in the case of the larger bodied practitioner, that it is a very detrimental relationship, because ultimately it just turns into like, just just show us everything that you can do, and this is your whole self-worth gets tied up in it. It's actually extremely reminiscent of diet culture. And I feel like, again, as fat body practitioners, you have to really see that shit. And in the way that, like, whenever people be like, oh my gosh, you're losing weight, that's so great, it's that exact same thing. If you are, like I am, in kind of a permanent rehabilitation from diet culture, it's really important to see these exact same things, because you don't even realize it, but you're falling into the exact same patterns that you were in when you needed to have that validation of like, oh, you're losing. I thought of this because someone had posted a comment on one of my pictures saying like, wow, your hard work is paying off, or some shit like that. I don't know. It's something that's meant to be nice, but we live in a very body negative society that is ruled by. And ultimately, whenever you tell someone like, wow, your hard work is paying off, it's saying that you need, like, the way that you were before was bad, and the way that you could be is good, but you have to keep working at it to get there. On the other hand, I think that one of the issues with like showing the practice in this way is that it creates this environment where the asana is really not taken seriously, and that the practice of yoga in general is not taken seriously. So it'll be just like, yeah, hop up into that difficult pose or do that impressive thing that I saw that time. And I'll just be thinking like, do you understand the amount of emotional and spiritual commitment that it takes to make these shapes? Because then that attitude turns into students thinking like, oh my God, I'm just not good enough because I can't get Bakasana right, or I'm just not good enough because I can't get headstand right. And then you start obsessing over it in a way that is so, it's just not the point. And there are plenty of teachers and studios in this beautiful city of New York, especially, and in LA especially, where they encourage that attitude and they want for you to think that you're not good enough. You know what? I could talk about this all day, but let me not. Let me go practice yoga. Let this go. But I felt like I had to say it since nobody ever talks about this, because I think a lot of people's self-worth is tied up in the asana, and we have to make space for that to not be the case.